glad to have you, Paul, with us, Paul Williamson, um, part of the Ultimate Impact group. And we're excited to hear your story today.
Thanks, marthann. I appreciate you. I know last Saturday you were on with, I believe it was last Saturday or the Saturday before. I don't
Yeah.
recall, but you were on with Dr. Richards. So I appreciated hearing what you had to say and just the manner in which you shared and, what you've gone through and stuff like that. A little bit you shared. So, but it's great to be here, and I appreciate y'all wanting to speak with me and hear my story. It's a long one, so I have a little bit of time to share, but hopefully I can say something that will help others. But I've often thought, marthann, that my life would be fun to share, and I've never really shared it because I felt like that was like putting myself out there a little bit. And then along comes Abby a month ago and asked me if they could talk to me and interview me. And I thought, well, here's the opportunity that came to me. And so I guess I'll go ahead and take advantage of it and just share a little bit. But so I can talk a little bit about, how I came to the Lord and things like that and certain events. How's that sound?
Oh, that sounds great. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so also I might say too that I have a place in my heart for the South, having lived in Tennessee, not too far from Huntsville. I lived in Murfreesboro, and
Know
we
it
talked
well.
about Tullahoma and places like that. I'm like, yeah, I know about that place, and
Oh, yeah.
and I've been there. I lived there twice, one time for 8 years and one time for 3 years, and I lived in Murfreesboro, and I moved back from there in 2014 back to Tucson, Arizona. But I was teaching in the College of Nursing at Murfreesboro at the university there, MTSU, Middle Tennessee State
Yeah,
University.
the borough's a big college town.
Yeah, it's exploded with growth.
Yeah.
Because I can remember when it was just a kind of a hayseed town, that was somewhere near Nashville,
Oh, yeah.
and Nashville was kind of where it was at. I was just in Nashville not too long ago, last year, at a convention as part of my work
Mhm.
downtown, and the building that's going on there is just phenomenal
Yeah.
downtown. It looked like a different city to me.
It
So
is one of the largest, fastest growing market for building and people moving into the area.
right, and it has a huge music industry. Of course, we've known that for years, but really, it's a great town. I enjoy it there. A lot of good music,
Yeah.
and it's just unbelievable. The caliber of musicians that are there is unbelievable. So I always enjoyed Tennessee. Now I'm here in the desert Southwest, and the the main color is brown. And I
Hmm.
was like, well, okay, that's all right. Brown and dirt. You don't waste your time trying to grow grass because your water bill would go through the
I would
ceiling.
say so. Yeah.
And so very different. The rain. It's just so different. But living in a place is about the blessing of the Lord. So I mean, when you sense that your life is blessed and your things seem to be just going forward in a flow and kind of in a sort of an ease, and things are working out, that you're probably where you need to be.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I've been I've moved around quite a bit, and that was one of my growing points uh, coming into adulthood is this sort of, you might call it wanderlust, but trying to find yourself. So you do different things, like you just pack up your family and move somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I've done that many times, and it really, really, really boiled down to just me trying to find myself, and what a selfish thing to do to your family. But actually, the positive was that we had a lot of good experiences along the way. So, uh, but I came to the Lord, and we in those days we called it got saved.
Oh,
We got
yeah.
saved. So I don't know what the terminology is now, not sure that's even accurate, but it wasn't really doesn't really matter what the terminology is. I had a really very strong encounter with the Lord, which is different than some others. But for me, it was really pretty cool. It was kind of on the heels of, I had a pretty bad accident when I was just getting out of high school. Got in a little trouble with a gun, and I was on the wrong end of it in a situation that was not a good situation. So I got shot in the chest, and ended up being in the hospital for a whole summer of 1973, I think, and just about died. But it was at that time really that my sister, who was about a year and a half younger than me, had been involved with charismatic Christianity at that time, and we would call them Jesus freaks.
Oh yeah.
Remember that term? So
yeah.
For me, it was more denigrating, because I used to give her a hard time about that and kind of ridicule her. And but when I was in the hospital, she actually had her youth pastor from her church come and talk to me, and I'll never forget that, because it was a good time to talk to me, because I was really pretty much wondering whether or not I was going to survive. So I was open about anything, God being one of them. So I mean, I would look at that as a time when I received Christ into my heart in 1973 at the age of about 17, 18, something like that. And we grew up as kids in a broken home. Dad and Mom got divorced when I was a toddler, 4 or 5 years old. So
been there.
Yeah, so three of us. So right off the bat, you got some strikes against you not having a dad in the home, and having a mom struggle to raise the kids. And so, there's a lot of things you have to overcome with that rejection and with those kinds of issues that you're going to have. And we see that countless times in our society now. Broken homes and kids coming out of fatherless homes predominantly. And so I suffered all the typical things that you would not having a father. But
Did
anyway,
you have any siblings?
I do. I have a brother and a sister. Both. I'm the oldest. Yeah. So and they both love Jesus. My sister, of course, led the charge way back when.
Yeah.
And then I came next, and my brother came after. He had a divorce, and it really set him back. And it always seems like it doesn't have to be that way, but it's usually some kind of tragedy or some kind of event like that really just gets you turning to God. And he did, and he's in Southern California, and he goes to the Saddleback Church there, a big church there, and he loves the Lord, and so that's great. So we talk frequently. But so that's kind of when I got saved. I didn't really start serving him for a while.
Well,
but it was a seed that was planted, because I opened my heart.
Right.
So that seed was there. It didn't get watered. We often learn from Dr. Richards about the sower and the seed, and that's it's foundational truth. So I had a seed there, but it didn't get much water. So it might have been like the seed was on the, maybe the rocky ground, or it just didn't have, I didn't really water it. It wasn't until 1979-ish that I really, so it was a few years later that I really began to, in earnest, really follow. So, but yeah, I got better from being shot, and that was quite an event. Don't break into houses. That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
So I'll just throw that out there. So, so I listened to Dr. Richards, and forgive me for bringing him up, but I look to him as my teacher, and and the stories that he tells, I wouldn't want to trade my life for his. I'm glad I have mine, but but similar things, but
Yeah.
not as frequent. He seemed like it was very frequent. So I had a lot of knocks along the way, made a lot of bad choices, as we all have. But yeah, so 1979, I had been kind of searching, seeking, kind of basically lost. And I remember there's little points in time when God's directing you and you don't even know it.
Oh, yeah.
You look back and go, that was God. So it wasn't demonstrative, but I can remember driving past a church, and I just felt this voice, go back, go in. So I listened to it, and I turned around, went back, went in. It was a church that in that time, charismatic churches were the rage, at that time in
Oh, yeah.
79, 80, and in the 80s, and they were singing and clapping and praising the Lord, and I just, kind of being who I am, I just walked in and joined in, you know, and
Yeah.
I thought it was great because the church I went to growing up was a church that you did a lot of standing and kneeling, but it didn't have much life to it.
No
And
connection, just
no, it's like,
going through the motions,
yeah,
rituals.
yeah.
Yes.
So this was new to me. This is like, what is this really what church is like? And so I got a jolt of real joy, and really that's carried me through. So, uh, you know, uh, that joy and that fullness, just that life that almost like electricity in your soul.
Oh, yeah.
So that was great. I'm gonna do this and go let the dog in because I knew she would eventually want to come in. So let me get
Yes.
up. Yeah, I mean, and certainly, it's gonna be a dialogue too if you want to kind of interject or anything and stop me because I tend to ramble a bit. Um, you would know it, but I've been a teacher for many years, and I teach graduate level students. They seem to be the best target audience for me because they are not as needful. They don't need as much like regimen. Like they can kind of flow with where you're going. But I've done undergraduate students, and if you don't follow an outline, and you don't follow the points, and you're in this, and
They're so linear.
oh my gosh,
I know.
yeah, and I am anything. I'm not linear.
Hmm.
I mean, I believe there's a place for that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm in, but life isn't really linear. It's,
No, it's not.
and so yeah, so I got into the church there, and it was like church, just like we're all have talked about, and it's just the perfect setup for being under a certain amount of control and certain amount of you know authority in your life, and this idea of following rules and performance oriented religion and Christianity became a big part of my life. And I flipped from ZZ Top and Alice Cooper and ACDC to religious music, just boom boom. It was like an extreme,
Yeah.
and I learned psychologically, I guess that's not uncommon to just sort of go from boom to just almost an extreme
It's
in your
more
taste.
common than you think, really.
Huh?
It's more
Yeah,
common than we realize.
yeah. I think you're just trying to really cover up all that. You just want to distance yourself from that life.
Yeah, and that does help us to do that.
Yeah,
Making those decisions with intentionality,
yeah,
it really makes it easier rather than that constant back and forth. When you
yeah,
have that intense break,
yeah.
you stay more focused.
Right. So, I went to, I mean, it's just amazing. I met my wife in church, and we got married that in 1979. So we just celebrated 40 years or 41.
And what's her name?
Kathy.
Kathy.
Yeah. And she's great. It's a miracle that we're still alive. Not alive, but alive in our marriage. it's crazy because most husbands, I guess I should speak about myself, but we were a team, but it was really more about me and ministry, because I felt like God called me to ministry, and felt like I don't deny that I had an encounter about ministry and this and that. I just think I completely went about it the wrong way. It's about God speaking your heart and then kind of waiting. What's the next step? I decided all that, and wrongly, but I did get a good education. I went to Bible school and went to a denominational school in California. I was part of the International Foursquare Church, and it's went to the school and all that, and did all that, and we pastored, and my wife's a pianist, and she's very good.
Yeah.
So we could, I run Sunday schools and preached, and she would do music, and so we did that for a long time. But there was a lot missing in my life, because what I was trying to do is really build myself up by things that I could obtain by becoming something.
Some people don't realize that people can pastor a church and still not be all the way connected. And some of them aren't even connected at all.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, we're still growing at every stage. Just
yeah,
because somebody's pastor and they're managing all these things,
yeah,
it may mean they're a good administrator
yeah,
more than having that great spiritual connection. But that, it just can happen that way.
yeah. I agree. I agree. I did that for many years, and I just realized that there were some things in my life that just weren't altogether straightforward, and that I was trying to meet a need I had by being someone. I felt like if I could just be someone, what better than to be a pastor, or, that would make me who I am. But really, as Dr. Jim says, it's all about your heart. Whatever God's going to do, He's going to do in your heart. Well,
Hmm.
I never understood that, and I think few people do, perhaps.
Yeah.
I couldn't say, I don't know. I am linear in the sense of, if I was to poll a certain number of people and talk to them about their heart, I would imagine a lot of them wouldn't have any idea of what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
What do you mean, my heart?
Some people
And
just think that's their emotions.
yeah, and yet the Bible talks about the heart so much. So so we went along for years. We lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and I had two girls. Uh, I became an instant father when I married Kathy, and she had a 2.5-year-old girl, Autumn. So she's my oldest. Then we had another girl, Misty, and they're both adults. But we went to California and got involved in the church very heavily there, a small church. Then then we went to Canada, where my wife's from. We went to Toronto, and her mother lived up there. And we got support from the church to go up there and do some church planning, which we did. But all along the way, I just was empty. I mean, it's not like you're empty all the time,
Right.
but you feel like you're just sort of limping along, trying to make things happen. And it just, it just didn't click. And it was me always searching for myself, and dragging my family along with me. Now we all went up there, and we lived there for 4 years, and took care of her mom, and we pastored a church, and we had another friend that was in another part of Toronto that we worked with a little bit, and we traveled around the Ontario province, and kind of supported the other ministers that were up there. And I also worked in the hospital. I've been in the hospital work since I got out of high school. And so then we left Canada, kind of just defeated,
Mm.
you know, and that's when we went to Tennessee for the first time. Again, got involved in the church, and had some money, blew that on my I wanted to do a business. Again, I think the theme is Paul and his bright ideas, and it really, thinking that I really checked in with the Lord, but I really didn't.
Yeah.
I said, "What do you think, Lord?" And then it was like, okay, great, all right, okay, love you, God, you know.
So
And
like,
I
I'm
was
not coming
about,
up with a plan, God. You want to help me out here,
yeah, yeah, it was always my plan. It was always me, and it's like, talk about, oh my gosh, and I was so self-deceived about where I was, and it's just crazy. It's really hard to express and explain that, but I just really didn't have any connection. I mean, I thought I did. I put in the hours of study, I put in the hours of prayer, but that's all it was. It was religious function. And, to some extent, it was meaningful to me because you don't continue to do things that are not meaningful. So, that's part of the difficulty, is that I may have tried to pray a lot, read a lot, and study, and I've got the lexicons and the Greek and the Hebrew and
yeah.
all, and but that was all just,
Mental energy.
yeah,
A lot of that we're living out of our mentality. We're feeling things in our head, not in our heart. To me, that's just the top level. And so it's easy to run out of depth because the heart is where all the depth is, the richness. And
yeah,
so, yeah, our tank runs empty
yeah,
so easy when we're living out of our head because
yeah,
your mind can change just based on uh, the level of sugar you've got, your blood sugar level. You
that's
can run
right.
out of ability to concentrate.
That's right. Yeah, and I was all about my brain,
Yeah.
intellectual.
Yeah.
I've been, I have as much education as anyone that you'll ever meet. I've got a bachelor's. I started out with my associate's degree, got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, got my doctoral degree, and I'm grateful for that. It was
Hmm.
meaningful. I
Oh, yeah.
enjoyed it. More than anything. I enjoyed my doctoral program because then I was starting to really get some of the heart things. So I did my
Yeah.
doctoral program a little later in life, but so of all this education, it's great. But what's even better is, Paul says that knowledge puffeth up, right?
Right.
It does. It puffs you up. So, but it really, I think it should humble you. I think,
Yeah.
and so I really turned that around. But so I could go on more about, my life was pretty much that. And Kathy was always supportive. And I know I didn't kind of contribute and invest in my kids the way I should have, but I do now. And so there's some things that you can turn around, some things you can't.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't. The damage is done, and you do the best you can. With that, and I'm not. It's just, you make decisions, and
Yeah.
you make choices. But I never realized the magnitude of the choices that I was making. I never realized. I was of the opinion that God was sovereign,
Hmm. Oh,
and
yeah.
he was going to do it. I never understood that it was actually. I guess I did understand that it was up to me, but I wasn't really checking in with him. So I've really learned a lot from him. But we left Tennessee, and I got my master's degree and became a nurse practitioner. And so in terms of like my vocation, God's already really blessed me for being involved in it. The problem is I've jumped from so many jobs. I've had so many jobs. I've started school. I started a nursing school. I taught at a university, about 4 universities. Uh, I could have settled down at any one of those had I just been right with myself. Had I really had a sense of who I was in Christ, a sense of identity, I could have settled at any one of those places. But doing something different gave me that sense of identity. It gave me that sense of importance. It gave me that sense of value that I was seeking.
Right. And so if we don't have that identity in Christ, we're going to have that identity, those things met in some other way.
Yeah.
And that's what the world does.
Yeah.
I have to do this, I have to accomplish this, I have to check
Yeah.
all the boxes.
Right.
But when we get that identity in Christ, it's amazing how full we can feel on what seems so little to them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And, for me, going back to school, getting another degree or getting another job was like a fix, like a drug addict.
Yes, like being addicted to something new.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had
Yeah. It's
that
new.
problem.
Oh, it's new. It's this. Oh,
Yeah.
and that wears off.
Oh, yeah. That adrenaline runs
Oh,
out.
boom. Yeah. So that's where I was, up until probably about what happened was, we're in Tucson now, and we were here in, gosh, I want to say about 2004-ish. And then we got involved in a ministry called Celebrate Recovery, which
Been
is the
in
one
that.
out of Rick Warren's church
Yeah.
at Saddleback. So part of that began to resonate with me in the terms of addiction. Now, I wasn't addicted to drugs and alcohol and things like that, but I had the similar traits. So really, both my wife and I, and she felt, she was quite codependent. So we were quite a match. And we were the perfect codependent couple. She was the enabler, I was the addict. And so we unfortunately have a fallacy of only applying that to alcohol or drugs.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not really the case. It's so much more broad than that.
It is.
And so that was us. And so we got involved in that, and we really began to find some freedom there, and some really getting, I think too, prior to that, my wife kind of saying, I'm not going through this with you. You either change or I'm out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an ultimatum, really, and so, and I had some other problems that were, I think, really common to of kids. I don't know about girls, but boys, not having a dad, there was always the problem with sex and sexuality that I had probably since childhood, and having some bad exposures to things then that I don't really need to go into detail about, but that sort of lived with me throughout all of this as sort of a underlining kind of not a theme, but just messing with things. And it really was not good. And so part of that was her ultimatum to me, so we got involved. I actually sought out some help, and personally began getting some help. And then we went to Celebrate Recovery and started really finding some help. And it began to really uncover sort of some wounds and some things that were gut wrenching, really. Were just deep,
Yeah.
just I can't express it, but we began to explore things, and I was working on me, and she was working on her. I wasn't working on her, she wasn't working on me. We
And that is
decided,
such a freedom, isn't it?
that really for me to have a really good marriage, I got to work on me.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. And then in 2006, the guy we worked with there, we pastor in Celebrate Recovery, and he's been out to Huntsville and been to some of the workshops out there. He introduced us to Jim Richards in 2006. We started reading the Peace, the Gospel of Peace was the first one.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, that offended me highly.
Yeah.
But I got through it. Then Grace, the Power to Change. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And we just started slowly.
Most everybody that comes in contact with Jim Richards stuff, they have these epiphanies of offense. It's just like, you're blowing everything. You're coming in from the side. I don't have any foundation to deal with this almost. And it's like, you throw the book down, they go, I ain't gonna touch it again, and then you go back to it.
Yeah. And then, so you get into then Foundations of Faith, Hebrews 6.
Yeah.
What? What's this? I went to Bible school. Are you kidding? I have a degree in theology. What's this? What? I said, I don't even have the foundations of the faith. So I went through that class,
Yeah.
and then, so that was just sort of ongoing. And then I've had some medical problems along the way too, hepatitis C and treatment on that. And then 2007, I got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh wow. Yeah, my
So
mom had
I
that.
got cancer. I'm going, okay. And this was when we were just getting, we were just getting into Jim Richards, about a year into that, maybe less, into Celebrate Recovery, so really making some progress as becoming who I am in Christ, who I am as a child of God, and including the names of God, what Jesus has done for us, the fact that, it's up to me to do it, and he's already provided, trying to grasp all of that stuff that I never heard before.
Yeah.
And then cancer.
Mm.
Well, it wasn't too bad, but I was introduced to the heart physics, essential heart physics. And I'd been teaching at the University of Arizona in the College of Nursing at that time. And so I took a month off and went through some, I may have been off longer, but I did the 30-day series.
Yeah.
It rocked my world.
Yes.
Rocked my world. And I'm built in a way, part of me loves the meditative stuff. Not everybody does it that way.
Right.
But I went through that, and it was amazing. Heart physics, and I don't know what I did with my heart physics stuff. I want to buy it again, but I keep looking at the price. I've been going, I don't know. I know how to do this stuff. So I go to I go through my counting, and one, relax, go down the elevator or escalator. I always go down the elevator, open the door. Oh, there's my little green plot of grass. This is my secret place.
Yeah.
Oh, I sit down, I can see it, and Jesus is coming up. Oh my gosh. I got over cancer, and it was, I did go through the therapy. I don't want to minimize it for anyone that has struggled. But that made it so much better. I didn't really feel like I was going to die. And my wife definitely, she was like, no, she's like, no, you're not going to die. No, she had no fear at all. Not any. Because she's always like, fear doesn't have a place in the heart of a believer. Fear doesn't have a place in the heart of a believer. And, that was not just a mantra. That was like her heart. She believes that. Mm-hmm. Fear has no heart. It's just not, if you have fear in your heart, you're not perfected in love. So if I see fear in my heart, I go, oh, okay, God, what am I doing here? Because if I have fear in my heart, I'm not perfecting your love. And so I got to straighten that out. So, because fear is just paralyzing.
Yeah, and when we feel it, it's simply there's a signpost that says, "I need some more understanding in the love. I need to meditate. There's something in me, some little thought, some heart belief that's just off.
Yeah,
not fully established in love."
Yeah, and that's perfect because this is such a journey, and it's just amazing. But that was really a powerful time for me personally. It was my experience, and I love doing meditations. I really do. And my downfall is that I have a busy life. It's really hard to squeeze it in. Yeah. But I find that I can do meditations pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
They may not be long, they're brief, but I can do them, I can do them just about anywhere. If I just, because I can get caught up in my life. I'm a nurse practitioner, right. And we just work. I work. It's so much.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just have to pause, take a few deep breaths, close my eyes, and I can have a meditation minute.
Yeah, and see, that's it. When you can do it anywhere, and it's not a regiment, it becomes ingrained.
Yeah.
It's woven in your life, and anything you can do that, it stays with you.
Right.
And it so, does. It's just like an inhaler. So I'm having an attack. I'm going to go take a few puffs, and I'm good.
Yeah.
Being able to that connection, just get it anywhere. Run to the bathroom. There's a stress, I'll just sit here for a minute or two and just
It's funny you should say
reconnect.
that.
I do it myself.
I know. That's like the bathroom is the best place.
This is my holy of holies. There's a
You're
throne and
alone. Nobody's
everything.
gonna, it's like pretty secure. You're like,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Shower. I
Well,
do a lot of praying.
hallways. I've even like in hallways and stuff
Yeah, yeah,
where there's like I've done that.
I know. And I
Broom
think, like
closets.
I do most of my tongue speaking. That's another thing too, that coming out of the church, being part of charismania
Yeah.
was, the big emphasis on the gifts, particularly the tongues. And that, of course, that
Yeah.
was all overdone, uh, to an extreme. But we felt like we were right, so
Yes.
that we were it,
Yeah.
so that was really off the tracks, really, in a lot of ways. But I think of Paul saying, "I speak in tongues more than you all," and I think, well, if that's the case, then he must get a lot of benefit from it. So it's not like I'm trying to compete with Paul, but the purpose of tongues for me is just to edify myself, to build myself up.
Oh
Really,
yeah.
90% of that, for me, is what that is.
Well, it says to build yourself up in your most holy
Emotional.
faith by
Right.
praying in tongues, speaking to yourself in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs.
Yes.
This thing about having to wear masks everywhere, I'm all the time singing in the spirit. I'll pray in spirit all through the grocery store, everything. It's my
Yeah.
way of doing things. My grandson once said, "Mama, can you speak in English today? You stepped
That's
on my
hilarious.
foot. I'm going to speak in tongues. That's what's going to come out. You scare me, and I'm going to pray for you,
Ah,
probably."
right, right. But so that's when I was getting to me and my wife. Really, she's read all the books too. She does, codependent Christianity. I mean, that's a big deal. Uh,
Yeah.
the what was the other one too about? Oh, Satan Unmasked.
Yes.
Unbelievable,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Just how limitless living. We can, and I can remember back. We all look at like verses like John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And I believe that, but I wasn't experiencing it. But
Right.
I didn't realize, nobody told me that I believe it, but I'm not experiencing it. Nobody said you don't believe it. Because
Right.
if I'm not experiencing something, I don't believe it.
I'm still in the process of persuading my heart. I'm
But I
not
never knew
fully
that.
believing
Nobody
yet.
ever talked to me about the nature
Yeah.
of the heart, the
Right.
nature of Proverbs 4:23, which says, guard your heart. I know the boundaries of your heart. And Dr. Jim has taught us so much about that there's a lot that I can do to make my life better simply
Yeah.
by just uh, going to my heart and really persuading my heart, as you say. And we've learned that this is the truth about what Jesus has done for me through his death, burial, and resurrection.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so all of these concepts were just flooding in on me. A lot of it, though, was also uh, in a kind of strange kind of way, very organized, because we read the Gospel of Peace was is kind of like the initiation, then
Yeah.
grace, the power to change, and then it seems like everything that we began to be exposed to was like, okay, I'm in 100 level classes. I'm in 200 level classes.
Yeah.
Now I'm in 300 level classes. Now I'm in 400. Now I'm in graduate school. So that process was there, but I didn't make it that way. It just sort of happened that way.
Yeah.
And so, now my wife and I, the kids are on their own and they've got their own issues that we're just trying to distance ourselves from and not being able as in their life. And nothing is perfect. Uh, yeah, except the perfect love of God. And I couldn't be happier in my life now. And just a lot of it is just I made I made right choices about this, and so did my wife. Uh, it's just amazing to me how much that we are created in the likeness and image of God, and
Yes.
and we don't understand. I don't understand the depth of that likeness that I have to my Creator. Uh, And he's a good God.
Oh, yeah.
Um, he always loves me. Now, sometimes I make wrong choices. And
Yeah.
not only that, I know what I'm doing.
Yes, we do.
And I know that I make a decision to do that. And but I never ever waver about God's love for me because it doesn't change. But when I make wrong choices or even decide to make wrong choices, it does something to me. It affects me.
Yeah.
And so I want to string together more good choices. I want to string together a lifetime of making the right choices, following the prescription of Dr. Jesus, and
Yeah.
not the commands, not like you must do this or I'm gonna, you're dead meat.
Right.
No, I love Dr. Jim's analogy of commandments to prescriptions.
Oh, I know.
That's like so different. It's so foreign. It's like,
That
oh my
changes the
God,
whole magnetic quality of it.
it's just
Instead of being
amazing.
repelled, you're drawn to it.
Yeah. And so my relationship with the Lord now is so very different. And I mean, and I can tell you about me. I mean, if you want to know more about me, you can ask my wife. She can fill in the blanks, and leave that with you. But I mean, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, and I know we're going through this thing now in UI with like, what behavior do I want to change?
Yes.
And it's like, well, I don't think there's anything I want to change right now. Because I'm real happy with what's going on. So let's not mess things up, But clearly, I mean, I say that tongue in cheek. There's a time when there's things in this life where I'm going to need to look inside myself and say, this behavior really needs to go.
Or just changed a bit, adjusted.
Yeah, adjusted.
Yeah.
But it's taken a lot of heartache, a lot of introspection, a lot of effort, but it's the right kind of effort. It's kind of this labor to enter into that.
Yes.
So the labor is persuading my heart. The labor is
Yeah.
convincing me myself of what God's done, and so it's not so much about going back into the past and identifying all of these things. Clearly, rejection. I have a sense of rejection in my heart because my father left me. Well, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
uh, the need, I have a need for acceptance.
Yeah.
I need to be accepted. I want to be respected. Um, Part of my character that I have personally too is that I'm kind of like I seek the lights. I seek, like, I often think if I would have chosen a profession, I would have been an actor or a performer because I like the lights. I like
Yeah.
to be in front of people. But
Well, you're a
that's me.
firstborn, so do you have the normal firstborn tendencies, the drive to excel?
Oh my gosh, to the nth degree. I mean, I grew up with my siblings and my mom. What would she do? Take care of your brother and sister.
Oh my goodness, what a
I can't
weight to
handle
be
your
on your
brother. Take
back.
care of your brother.
Yeah.
Take, are you the oldest?
No, I'm number two, but I know of these traits well. My sister's 2 years older than me,
Yeah.
and so I was
Yeah. Oh yeah.
evidently she would tell the orders, and I would carry them out. I was the army.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I lived with this stigma. You're going to be so successful. You're going to be so successful, and that's really hard because I was anything but that. I felt anything but that in myself.
But it drives
I
you.
was, pardon?
It drives you.
It drives you and
Yes.
it drives you crazy.
Yes. And oh
Uh,
yeah.
I was all about image, even back in high school. And in those days, I was 69 through about 73. I grew up in front of the TV watching the Vietnam War,
Mhm.
Watergate, Iran Contra, you name it, all that stuff that was going on then. So I was just after uh, the era prior to that with the hippies and Woodstock. I was a little young for those kinds of things, but I was the tail end of
Me too.
that era. So in high school, it was about long hair, smoking grass, wearing a leather jacket and jeans, and being a tough guy.
Yeah.
But inside, I was a cowering, afraid, fearful person.
Hmm.
So I had to mask up, and project, and got in a few fights and this and that, but never liked it. And
Yeah.
and I realized that's not who I am. I'm not that, so. And after a while, the veil falls, the veneer peels away, and you can't put that up anymore, and I don't need to, because I know who I am in Christ. And
And that's so freeing. It,
whew,
you just wake up ready to go.
yeah,
I mean, people can jar you. I used to say, when
yeah,
whatever's in you, your default setting, when life squeezes you, you click back to your default. Well, if that is deep in God, you can't squeeze me to where I don't love.
yeah,
Love's gonna come out in some form,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's what's in there to the depth.
yeah. It's interesting you should bring that up too, because life is such that you will eventually be in a situation where what's really in your heart will come out. It will.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's what you had planned and what you had hoped for, and sometimes it's not.
yeah. Sometimes it
So
really embarrasses you when it
yeah,
happens, and you go, "Oh
yeah.
my gosh,
Did
that
I?
was
Yeah,
in me."
yeah. Now, smart people go, let me reflect a minute. Look, that 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 didn't feel good.
Right,
That didn't look good. I didn't like it.
right,
What's going on? And you take stock, and where you're at, you go back to the drawing board, and you get with the Lord, and you say, okay, I need to work this out, and what am I going to do next time, and how am I going to maintain peace in my heart when this happens, and you go there. And
right,
I used to not be that way. I was the fool who had to get knocked upside the head and hurt and lose my money and get hurt, whatever. And rarely would I even learn then. But now it's different, because when something comes out of my heart or something's there that gets exposed by just life, it's not God doing it to me.
no,
God didn't never raised a hand to hurt me ever, and to no one did he ever do that, really. Everything that happened to me was by my own choices and decisions. Now, did I bring cancer on myself? Did I bring hep C on myself? I don't know, probably not, but that's just the part of living in this world that we live in, that's still a fallen world.
it is.
And I'm not one to say, why did the baby die? Why did God kill the baby? Or uh, why did God do that? I don't know why a lot of things happen, but I know God didn't do it.
There you
Well, he let it happen. Well, no, he didn't.
go.
See, when he created us, he gave us the power to control our destiny, to run this world. We just happen to run it the wrong way.
Right.
And so a lot of things that we suffer because of our own hearts. And it's unfortunate, but there's good people like you and I that are in touch with the Lord and are out there shining. And I get to go to work every day and with this mindset, and it's awesome. But so it's been a long. Uh, I just turned 65, so I'm on Medicare now. Woohoo! And maybe in about 66 in 2 months, I'll start drawing my Social Security and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't plan on not working,
Right.
and I continue to stay checked into what Jim Richards and Ultimate Impact are doing. We don't go to a church. We've talked about it. My wife and I've talked about it, but she doesn't want to go. She's, I'm not, no more. I might say, all I have to say is, why don't we have a meeting in our house? And it sets her off. She's like, well, if it's anything like, I might say, we'll have a Bible study. Forget, no, this too much like church. She
Yeah,
don't
and
want
it
to do
takes a
church.
while to get that out.
Well, it ain't
There's
out.
so much pain woven
Oh,
into the cloth of the experience.
yeah,
I know exactly what it's like because I had to detox from
yeah,
old memories and things. People invite me to church, and I almost cringe.
yeah,
I think about going to mainstream church. It's like,
yeah.
oh, you want me to dance in a go-go bar? It's like
Right.
it's about the same,
Yeah, I'd
and
rather
they
do
don't
that, but
understand. Yeah, it's
I'd be,
like, okay.
you know, but I'm just saying that I just, oh man. So that's been we don't really struggle with it. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just the way it is. I mean, I feel like, well, we, we don't, we get a little bit of socialization. We know enough people to kind of keep us social. And then, we're both involved with Jim Richards. And of course, I do the Ultimate Impact on Saturdays, and I try not to miss any of that. It's always fun to listen and participate in that. I love it.
I do
Uh,
too.
and I just love when he goes off about rednecks, and it's hilarious. I get a
Hey,
lot.
that is my whole life, rednecks.
Yeah.
I think I've got a couple of degrees in redneckology.
So, fortunately, I kind of, I get a little bit, I understand that a little bit because I haven't lived there. And,
Yes.
we moved out further to a place called Woodbury, Woodbury,
Yeah.
and we go down to Woodbury.
Woodbury.
And, people there, they're different. You're going to Piggly Wiggly, and they're different.
Yes, they are.
They're nice, but they're different. And so I've been exposed to that life. It's cool. But I know we went over to that. I forget what it's called. That horse thing they do over there. Uh, It's not Tullahoma, but the international. They have the horses where they trot. And went to that show once. It was pretty cool. But there's a lot of horse people there. We enjoyed that. But and so I tell my students, don't, let's not get all worried here. We'll work it out. We'll figure it out, and not to worry. So I'm all about like just calming the herd, and saying, just it's okay. It's not the end of life as we know it,
It's
and
just
we'll
how
work it
well
out.
we save in the process, how soon we can. It's like driving defensively. How quick can you get back in your lane
Yeah,
and just keep moving? Because that's what we do with life. Things come out of the left and the right,
yeah,
and having that heart peace.
yeah,
I mean, you just have so much to draw on.
yeah.
Whereas with religion, it was all in your head. It was the
Right.
trying to do stuff, and
Yeah,
so many
yeah,
things could come in, and you were just like blown away.
yeah. Well, it's a miracle my head hasn't exploded. So, because I got more up there than any one man should have. And most of it's probably useless, but uh, so it's just what comes out of my heart that really is the benefit. And I know that there's a sort of a trajectory, or really just a flow of renewing your mind. It doesn't stop there. I do a lot of renewing my mind, but I didn't get to my heart. I got to really transplant that into my heart, so that in my heart then it can become really honest, genuine behavior.
Yeah.
It's not manufactured. I was a manufactured, hot off the press, assembly line Christian. Now, I would think that I was a believer, but it was just it's amazing. You don't know what you don't know,
I
and you're
know.
living in this deception that you don't know you're living in. And now I see it in others, and it's like, it's like you're in another dimension, and you can't get through. And I was there too, where I thought I believed what I believed, but I really didn't, you know.
Yeah.
But making that transition it's a miracle. And I know how Jim identifies a miracle, but to me, it was a miracle. Like I couldn't have made that transition from one realm to another. I don't know how it happens. I guess it happens by finding out what the word says about sowing and reaping and planting seed and renewing your mind, and all the things that we're learning to do. So these have really been beneficial. And I you know he's been my teacher. I I don't trust a lot of people, but I trust him. Um, uh,
And I do like what he says about, check up, follow out what I'm saying. Don't
yeah,
go just on what I say. I love that part
yeah,
because I would do that.
yeah, yeah, I do too. And it's easy with him because,
It usually pans out. It usually backs up. I don't usually have a
yeah,
discrepancy. And he
right,
makes it so practical. He
yeah,
doesn't make it thick or heavy or
right.
full
Yeah,
of
he's very
extra
down to earth.
words.
And I mean, some of the stuff he gets into is a little bit tricky, and it gets into the Hebrew letters and the numbers and the gematria, and it's interesting, but
Hmm.
like, and I go off on looking at some of these resources, and but he's really done a lot of work and chewed on a lot of it to
Yeah.
help us, but he's right. I mean, I have to make that my own. It's his experience, but I don't want his experience. I want my own.
Right.
I want my own experience, and
Yeah.
and I have my own experience, and I like my own experience. It's an experience that is continuing to grow and mature. I often say to myself, I should have been where I'm at now 10, 15, 20 years ago. But that's neither here nor there. You know, I, you know, I'm where I'm at now, and I'm happy. Am I? Do I still need to work out some things? Absolutely. Yeah, and I know a lot of what it is. But I'm in a better place. I'm not beating myself up over it. I'm not guilting myself over certain things that I need to work out. I'm still saying, no, I have value. God, I have great value. I have my identities in Christ.
Yeah.
I'm important to God,
Yeah.
and so I can grasp that in my heart, and I can feel it.
Yeah.
So uh, feelings and emotions, I can feel God's love. You know, emotions different,
Very different.
very different.
Yes.
So and if I don't feel God, if I don't feel it, I don't really struggle over it too much.
Hmm.
Because I know it doesn't really change anything.
Right.
God hasn't changed. He's so stable. He's just like he never changes. So it's just always about, okay, where am I at? What have I done? It's about, if I want to be close to God, then it's up to me to be close to God. And do I hear from God? Good question. I don't know. I think I do. And so, well, how do I do that? Well, I guess I could practice hearing from God, right?
Yeah.
So I do that. How do I do that? Well, I did it recently. I've been lifting home from work because we're minimizing ourselves. So I've been doing the public transit and some Lyft. I did a Lyft the other day, and I carry money in my wallet sometimes, and it usually just sits there. But this is usually how it looks, you know, because I don't know. I just don't really spend my. But I had some cash, and I got and I said and I had this feeling of give the guy what's in your wallet. I said, oh, I said, okay, good. I said, I think I heard from God to give you this, so I'm gonna give it to you. So I don't need it. I said, well, I can't not do what I feel God's telling me to do, so please take it. And he said, okay, thanks. Well, did I hear from God? It doesn't really matter. What I did was good. So
I think it comes from our heart. When our
yeah,
heart has that peace about it,
yeah, yeah,
that really we don't have to have that other person's
yeah,
attention or
right,
even acknowledgement that much because
yeah,
this the inward peace is where we live from.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was really cool. I felt like, well, sometimes I mean, we can hear God. I mean, He gave us a book. I mean, there's a lot of words in there and a lot of things. I mean, I've been reading through the Old Testament now. I'm in Judges now. What a book. I'm in
Oh
Judges
yeah.
chapter 2. So a generation that knew God has passed away. Now a
Yeah.
generation has come here that knows nothing of God. And
Wow.
that's where we're at now, I think. We have a
Yes.
generation. that's coming up that has no clue.
Yeah.
Not you know, a I had a family that was in a church, kind of identified with a religion, a Christian religion.
Yeah.
But we have kids now that are coming out of families that don't even have that as a reference point.
Yeah, it's not, to me, it's like, here's a generation, they don't know Joseph.
Yeah,
They've been in Canaan, and that's what they know. They
yeah,
know the Egyptian gods, they know
that's
the
it.
Egyptian methods, and
Yeah,
they have lost, the
right.
old ways.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so God speaking to me, is through His Word mainly, and nothing. I listen to things like I remember I was trying to remember being at ship and lining up the three lights as you're coming into the harbor.
Yeah.
I forget what those three lights are, but one is probably the Word of God. One is probably what Jesus Christ says. So, uh, His life and times. And I forget the third one. You line those up, but I couldn't remember. So I often think of that as guiding my path. And then he mentions the pillars, two really important pillars. You got to believe in the creation of the Bible.
Exactly the way he said it. Yes.
Yep, exactly the way he said it. And the creation of man,
Yeah.
humankind in his image. And, I do. Those are really foundational. And I tell you what, I couldn't tell you whether they're 24-hour days or some other kind. I don't know. I'm not sure I care. Was there a pre-Adamic world between Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and verse 2? I don't know. I've heard a lot of teaching about this so-called pre-Adamic world. I don't know. All I know is I believe that God created. I believe the creation story, and it's in my heart. It's not just in my head.
Hmm.
And so those are foundational truths as well that we really have to have. And like he says, and a lot of people don't even believe that.
Right.
And they call themselves, I guess they would be Christians in a sense, but I don't see how you can be I guess you can't really be a believer and not believe that.
Well, you don't have a basis. You don't have that deep cellular connection.
Yeah,
You just have that, well, maybe it was this. Anywhere there's indecision, you're not stable. And
right.
so there's
Yeah,
so many people that aren't sure. They wonder, they question. And when you're not sure, you're not questioning, you're a double-minded person.
right.
You can't
Yeah,
take hold of anything. You're not in the saddle, you're not on the saddle, you think you're riding the horse.
exactly.
More, the horse is pulling you on the
Yeah,
ground behind you. And that's why life is just all this crap is in their life.
beating you up.
You're not even on the horse, you're being
No,
drugged behind it.
that's right. Yeah, that's true.
That's why
So
people say there's circumstances. Under the circumstances, I'm like, you're supposed to be riding on that horse and
that's right. Yeah,
dragging behind it.
what are you doing under the circumstances?
That's it.
Yeah, and certain life is has certain. That's what makes it challenging. That's what makes it kind of fun. It makes it. It's like, oh, a new challenge. And I've gone through something recently where my confidence. I've been working on my confidence level, especially for things that I've never done before. And we did a writing recently with Dr. Richards and the UI team. We wrote down some stuff, and one of mine was that I would accept new challenges and new opportunities, and that I would have confidence even in things that I've never done before.
I
But
did
but
that too.
but God will help me to learn what I needed to learn,
Yeah.
because sometimes you don't know stuff. You have lack of confidence in yourself. But I determined that I wouldn't have a lack of confidence in me as a person, but I would readily acknowledge that I needed to learn certain things to do
Yeah.
something. So that's because I realized that you know that was in me. This insecurity has been a big part of my life. Insecurity, and I don't know where it comes from, but I don't want to be insecure. I want to be secure. I want to be confident. I want to be, you know, I want to lead.
Yeah.
You know.
And a lot of times we don't want to be vulnerable. We want to
Right.
have all the stuff ready and in place. We want all the things to work with us. But and the real truth is, Brene Brown said it well, that in our vulnerability, that is where everybody can connect because we're all vulnerable.
Yeah,
We are all learning on the fly in some respect.
yeah.
And confidence comes when you step out and start doing it.
It's,
Uh,
that's such a
and
good,
accept your mistakes as you
yeah.
go.
Because if you don't, you'll never do anything.
I know.
And that's such a good word, because there were times when in the past that I would just shrink away,
Me too.
and just say, that's not where I want to go. I don't feel, oh, that's scary. And I don't think that's unusual, but I felt like I was the only one.
We'd always feel that way. I think we
I,
always say when you're
I,
first stepping out, it's just like going up and asking somebody for a date. It's always, there's
oh,
always that trepidation, that
yeah, yeah,
tension in the air that we have to
right.
get past.
Yeah, I know. And, as a nurse practitioner, I work with my mentor, she's a pulmonologist. So I work with lung diseases,
Hmm.
and she's the department chair of medicine. She's a researcher. She's not only that a researcher, she's a decorated researcher, recognized. Uh, but I hitched my wagon to her, if you will, but we see some really complex patients, very sick, and so you mentioned being vulnerable, uh, and you may be vulnerable to people who have no concept of God, Christianity, or anything, but there's something that's right about that. There's something that people respect about acknowledging, I have a lack in this area that I need to fill up, whether it's knowledge or some kind of task. There's some kind of, you get a little respect with that, because I think you're right in that they too are the same. They identify. But this woman I work with is, she's a little younger than me, and she's very accomplished. And I've had people say to me, she intimidates me and this and that. And I can see that, but I wouldn't, I'm not really like, I don't, I'm not going to be intimidated, because if I am, then I won't ever really receive from this person what they have to offer. So I've
Yeah.
been able to work well with this person, and boy, has it benefited me in many ways. So it's really important to identify those areas that are stumbling points for me: recognition, approval,
Yeah.
value, and they come up in some of the weirdest ways that nobody would know, nobody would even guess. And I'll share one. Like, a few weeks ago, Jeff Hilton reached out to me and said, would you be willing to share an ultimate impact like you did and some of the others,
Yeah.
and about codependency? And so I told him what my codependency was, and much about what we've been talking about, like recognition, value, being seen as someone kind of like been there, done that.
Yeah.
That's been a sort of a, well, they never got me in yet.
Well, I
And
was in the green room for 3 weeks too.
but it's funny because nobody like plans it, but what an opportunity for me to identify some things as
Yeah.
I wait, you know, and I
Yeah.
realized, man, what are you upset about? Why are you angry about not getting called in yet? And so I worked through that and realized that's silly,
I
you know.
learned some things in the green room too. I told Diane, she goes, "Well, I'm sorry you didn't get in." And I said, "Guess what? I learned that I think just being in the green room was my place of willingness before God. I'm willing. I'm just
Right.
here. I'm standby. It's like the
Yeah.
National Guard.
Yeah. But
I get counted for showing up. I get all the
yeah,
same benefits without having to do the
I
work."
know. So that really it's been revealing to me. I think I recognized it and went, oh, and I was upset. And I was like,
I kind of felt like, oh, all this I got ready for nothing.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, I mean, well, I mean, if it's your first time sitting around, you're just like, you know,
Yeah,
hello, you know.
yeah.
It's like you was
Come on.
invited to the party, but nobody asked you to dance.
I know. It's like
Sitting over there.
they don't love me. What's going on? So that was really good. So life's so great like that. So
Yeah,
if you just turn it to a positive, because if you
exactly.
don't, it's gonna be bad. It's not gonna be any fun. So recognize it. I had to deal with it, but not in the sense of like it was not difficult. It was easy.
Yeah.
Once I recognized it, once I kind of laughed at myself and went, okay, Lord, anything I get already from you.
Oh, totally.
I don't get it from being on a program or being this or that or having this letter behind my name. All that's well and good, great. I mean, some of it I need for my work, but it's not who I am. I
Right.
mean, it's part of who I am, but
Yeah,
you
but
know, but
it's not the
really
main part.
not the
And
main part.
those things that happen, they're just simply signposts and
Yeah,
opportunities for us to do more hard work,
yeah,
more more opportunity for him to get deeper into our to love tank
right.
and move out some of that other stuff. We're peeling the onion. The
Yeah,
next layer is going to be, 2.0, 3.0.
exactly.
We're
And
just updating.
and it's a continual process, and
It will
you
be.
know, it's a journey, and I've really been enjoying it, and I think it's important too to you're out there with people, let your light shine, and I mean, I may not share Jesus in a verbal sense, but I really find it fun to just be who I am in Christ wherever I am. And there are occasions when there is a genuine transfer of information that's helpful. But I'm careful about that because it's so easy to flip back into preachiness and preaching and so uh, yeah, I'm careful to not do that. I want to make it practical, real life, which you can't get more real life practical than Jesus
Oh, I know.
and reading about his life and what he did. I wish there was more that was printed about his life and how he did and how he treated people. And, that's what we're supposed to do. And, I have never found anything yet that he did in his life that was destructive to people,
No.
you know. Uh, and so I'm supposed to model my life after him. So that's just a daily thing that we all share. We get up and we that's what we do, and some of it just becomes almost natural, which I think it should be because that's
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
People will see that.
Yeah. Who you are on a daily basis. I mean, those are comfortable shoes.
They
And
are.
and in the place of comfortable shoes, you are in a position to love, support, and encourage people.
Yeah.
Much better than if you're trying to wear new shoes that are pinching. You're
Right.
trying to do something that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's got to be an everyday gospel that just flows
right.
from your heart. That's
Right.
where that the fruit of the spirit grows. You don't have to make it happen. It
Right.
just does.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
see, that's what mainstream religion, they were all about making you do this, mentally doing this. And
Oh
they
my
didn't
gosh.
they didn't teach you how that it would grow, that it would flow. They didn't
Yeah.
have that concept. They
Yeah.
were
I mean,
always digging the ground and putting a seed and digging the ground. I mean,
yeah.
and that's why Paul says, I would like to give you some milk, but you got a meat. You guys are still on the
Yeah.
milk.
And it comes through in so many things. I was thinking about putting people into leadership positions when they just
Way
don't
too
belong
soon.
there.
Oh my
And
goodness,
it
they were
just
so
it
much that.
destroys their life.
Yeah,
You know,
because they got all this pressure and they have nothing to draw on.
right.
And the minute somebody criticizes them, oh, they've lost it. They've got
Yeah.
nothing to fall back on.
And so if you're charismatic in personality and you speak well, surely, God's called you to ministry, sure. And they take these people. I you know, I see as myself as more of an introvert, but I can be expressive.
Hmm.
Uh, um, but I'll tell you, that's not a place to put a novice. You know, I feel like,
Oh,
a lot of these folks in the Old Testament didn't take their, like I was thinking about Caleb, man, he didn't take his land until he was in his 80s. Was he,
right.
right?
Yeah,
God wasn't ready to use them until they were like old men.
exactly.
So it's crazy. So
Well, the
anyway,
novices do a lot of damage.
yeah, not only to people, but to themselves.
I mean, it's a train wreck any way you look at it.
I
And that's
know.
why when growing up in a charismatic church, as soon as they got you in there, they wanted to plug you into work. It was a
That's right.
machine. It was a
Yeah, it's a
machine.
machine. Right.
And
Right.
it felt very much like
Yeah.
just I would think about I've got to go do this, I got to go do this. I ended up being a pastor's secretary and the church secretary. So there was a lot of things and it was just like Sunday morning, I am going to be tired, doing
Right.
all this
It,
stuff.
did you go to church like on Sunday morning when you were there and the preacher was starting and he started to take his shirt off or his jacket off? Is he
Yeah.
getting ready to take his jacket off?
Okay.
I've been to some of the churches in the South where, and it's the most segregated time of the week is Sunday. But
Yeah.
but I've been to a couple churches there when the preacher he gets to preach and he takes. It's hilarious. It's quite
Oh,
entertaining.
I've been in churches where the people is running the pews, the literal holy rollers rolling under the benches. I mean, when I was a kid, that was normal. We'd just sit there
Yeah,
and watch all that stuff happen, and it was
I
like it's a
know.
show.
That's what you grow up with, and it's like, oh my God. When I was in Toronto, you remember the Toronto Blessing?
Yes, yes.
Oh my God, I went to that. The things people were doing. Oh, it's embarrassing.
Oh, I know. I
Oh,
totally know.
but it's just funny what we do to
But they're taught. They're
huh?
taught.
No.
The church is taught that this is common. This is
Yeah,
acceptable.
yeah,
You can't go dance down here at the dance hall, but you can dance in church. You
right.
know.
Yeah. So and we got involved in Vineyard Ministries as
Yes.
well. Now the thing about Vineyard is they had some great worship
Oh
and they had some
yeah.
excellent musicians.
Yeah.
And I was in Vineyard in Tennessee, and so they're all trying to break into the music industry, and on Sundays they play at church.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, man, good music. But it's none of it's none of it's a substitute for just what I'm going through now in
Yeah.
my life, and taking it home every day and living it every day. And so, so you live in Tennessee and you've been in there all your life.
Yeah. In East Tennessee, right next
Oh,
to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. East
Gatlinburg,
Tennessee. Yep.
Gatlinburg area.
Gatlinburg. Oh, that's right. You were mentioning.
I'm southeast from Knoxville.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've been up in there, Johnson City, which is a little further.
That's up more north,
Yeah, more north,
northeast.
and
Yeah.
the
But it's
track
beautiful
race. You got
country.
the racetrack up there, the short track for NASCAR.
Yeah. Yeah. Bristol.
Bristol. Been to Bristol. Been
Yeah.
to Bristol Motor Speedway on the infield
Yeah.
during a race. Amazing.
Years ago in my first marriage, my husband, we were part of the rescue squad,
Uh,
and we would be in the pit with the ambulance and everything, and I'm like, I don't want to be in the pit. The smoke is all in my
it's
face.
horrible and it's loud,
Oh, I know.
man, but it's exciting.
Yeah, there's a drilling rush with that.
There definitely is. I can get why those guys like to do that, man. But yeah, Gatlinburg and then Dollywood and all of them have been up there. And
Yeah,
it's a nice, nice area. You guys get a little bit of snow, don't you?
at times we do, but not too
Not
much.
much.
I mean, uh, it's pretty temperate.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, but it's so beautiful up there, Knoxville, and the University of Tennessee campus is really great.
Yeah,
Very pretty. I've been there. It's nice. Yeah.
and Knoxville's growing too. They're
Really.
expanding, and
Yeah.
I just keep praying for more industry to come to Tennessee.
Well, they don't have state tax, right?
We don't have a state income tax, no, but
Right.
our sales tax is pretty high.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Boy, the Tennessee is still red big time, isn't it? Red
Oh
state.
yeah,
Oh my
deep,
God.
deep red.
68%. Yeah. Arizona used to be red. Now there's like all, it's blue right now, but they're still counting the votes.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This election is nuts.
Well, it's every tide has to turn at some point,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and so in the end, we just got to hold fast and
Yeah.
trust. The
Yeah.
remnant still has a voice.
It does. And I love when Dr. Jim says we have something to say about when Jesus comes back. I
I
mean, that's a
know
pretty, when he makes statements like that, I think, oh my God.
people's hair catches on fire.
I'm telling you,
I mean,
I
and
don't know how he can get away with it.
well, I mean, if I tried to tell some of my family, they would say, "Are you get away from me? The devil get behind me or whatever."
I mean,
I'd get
that's hilarious.
rebuked real good, you know.
Yeah, right. You'll mute you. Yeah, it's so I think, oh, that's great. I mean, I look forward to, I want him to come back. I mean, if he wants to come back, I'd come back today.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah. I
Whatever.
know.
I mean, it's not much more. I'm not going to decide I want to plant another vineyard if he's coming back. No way. You let that vineyard go. Forget about it.
Yeah,
Let it go. I don't want to be locked in. So he made that statement, and I got to thinking. I have caught myself saying I don't want Jesus to come back now because I want to do this and that. But I thought, wait a minute, what are you really saying there?
yes,
What are you saying? So it makes you kind of reanalyze kind of what you are saying, what you really do believe. So if you can, I want him to come back, and I'm ready to go. I have
yeah.
nothing else I need to do that important.
There is nothing that I can't get from him.
Yeah,
There's nothing here that can compare to what he has in store for me.
that's
And
right.
the more I've got that persuaded in my heart, the less these things are going to draw me away from
Yeah,
that
yeah,
devotion, that
yeah,
in love with Jesus part.
yeah.
And
That's so true. And like there's that scripture that says he's given us everything for life and for godliness.
I love that one. Yes.
Yeah, I love that one. And I don't think I'm pulling it out of context. I often think about, am I am I recontextualizing the truth, or
Yeah.
is that appropriate? Because I don't, so often we do misapply or even misinterpret scripture. But in that scripture, I think that's I think I can hang on to that as a promise. But so that's where it becomes nice when you have a teacher that you listen to that helps kind of see, what's the context in which this was presented,
Yeah.
and then what part of it can I not pretext, but can I extrapolate from that and sort of make it my own, without being untrue or unbiblical.
Yeah. How can
So,
I make this walk out in my life in
right,
my flavor,
right,
and
yeah,
it still be
perfect,
true? It still be His truth,
right, still
but
exactly,
in my experience, yeah,
right,
totally.
yeah. So anyway, that's it's a lot of fun, and it's good to. I don't know what else I would share. It's
Well, there's
just
going to be people that listen to this and watch
uh,
this.
yeah,
I mean, I know a lot of people that tune in to listen. As they have long commutes, and say
yeah,
they want to hear something,
right,
and they want it from people that's reliable, that's in the
yeah,
same journey that we're in.
right,
And we have no idea what piece that we shared
right.
that God's gonna use
Hmm.
to give them a whole open another understanding in them.
I agree.
Our willingness to share is our part. And
Yeah,
then there's a seed, there's a water, and he
yeah,
gets the harvest.
yeah. And I'm always willing to share. I have a lot of I have fun stuff in my head and my heart that are rummaging around that I'm having fun with. And I'm beginning to really have a real good, healthy concept of me as a
Yes.
person, as a man, as a believer.
Yeah.
Uh, and I feel good about it. And I didn't always,
Right?
even many years as a Christian, as a born again, if you will, tongue speaking Christian, I never really felt good about myself.
Amen. I got in
and
there.
I do now, and I feel like it's genuine, and uh, to I want everyone to feel good about who they are in Christ, because it's such a healthy, whole feeling. You can't, it's really hard to share unless you share it, unless you have it, and you and I kind of are really witnessing to that sense
Yeah.
of wholeness, a sense of safety, that sense of security, even with the foibles and the little chinks in our armor that we have,
Yeah.
you know, admittedly,
Yeah.
so I'm still a work in process, and you can't, I never judge a book by its cover.
Nope.
Either way, you can look like a bum in the park and be genuine gold on the inside. Or you can look like a movie star and be decrepit and eaten away on the inside.
Completely. Some of my biggest pains were because I made a good judgment on somebody before I had all the
Oh,
information. Didn't
oh,
even know how to figure out the standard of
right.
how to. I mean, everybody said they were good. They
Yeah,
look good. They seemed to pass all the test.
yeah.
And then, oh my gosh.
Track record. Yeah, like Dr. Jim says, you got to look at their track record.
And you got to be able to be patient enough to go
Patient.
through
Oh my
that. If you're wanting something from that relationship
God.
so desperately that you're willing to take those chances, you're the one who's opening the door for your own pain. I mean, that was my experience.
Yeah.
So
And
if I'm not needy, I don't, I can back off when things start looking sketchy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then if you don't have lack, like you said,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. You
Yeah.
know, so
Honestly, I think that this peace that we carry with us, the more we love ourselves the way God loves us, it's part of our magnetic field. It's part
yeah,
of the energy. We just get around people and they feel it. We don't have. There's a
yeah,
lot of times we don't have to say much of anything. They'll
yeah,
come up, and
yeah.
that's
I
the
don't know if you're
drawing
really a
part.
Christian using terms like magnetic field and cellular memories and meditation. Are you a Christian, or
Yeah,
that sounds like the devil to me?
you bet that new age stuff. You know.
But boy, I tell you, when he goes into cellular memories, and I think now we used to think that the nucleus was the brain of the cell. It's the cell wall.
I know.
And
Oh,
so you think even my cells are affected by that energy,
yeah,
and you can sense it when you're with people who are kind of in the same vibe, because you get elevated, and you get encouraged,
you do.
you know. It
I'm
works the other
I'm
way
I'm
too.
big on EFT, and so,
Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I
but
believe it.
but
It's
when
it's definitely
there's
there.
a particular lady I'm working with,
Hmm.
and she'll just say, when I talk to you about it for a few minutes, she says, I am so ready to go do it. She goes, I am so inspired. And I
That's
said,
great.
and she goes, because you really believe this. And I said, in my cells, I believe this.
That's right, and it makes a difference in your life and your quality of life.
Yeah.
It's like I'm genuinely happy.
Yeah.
Is this, and I don't get the when is the shoe going to drop feeling anymore, but
Yeah.
when it's only going to get better. Yeah, there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be things that come up, but I have the equipment and I have the equipping to face it.
I'm so glad you brought up that about to drop thing,
Oh my
because
God.
that was so tormenting in my
Yeah.
younger life, because things would get good and I would
Yeah.
go, okay, what's going to fall apart?
Just wait.
And that was that impending doom, and
Yeah.
it would steal all the joy.
So you didn't know you had the gift of prophecy, because
Yeah, right.
we just bring it about. It's almost
We
like we create it.
we were bringing the shoe down. It was our own foot.
I
Oh
I
wow.
agree.
I know.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a scripture for that, but there's bring the shoe down, like, but
Paul Williamson, 12 verse 2,
yeah, there you go. So
or
that's
like Jeff
true.
Hilton says, is that in second excuses or extrapolations?
Yeah, right. I don't know him well, but we've interchanged a bit. He seems like a really great guy. I haven't been to Huntsville. Someday maybe I can get out there and meet some of the people that we know and stuff. I can't believe I never went down there when we were in Tennessee, but I don't know,
You show
whatever.
up when you're supposed to show up, I feel
Yeah,
like.
I suppose.
I didn't come across Jim's books until I found a book online, How to Stop the Pain, in 2013. And
That's a great How to Stop the Pain. I think my wife's rereading that right now. That is unbelievable.
it shook everything loose. I was just like,
I
"You're
bet.
kidding me," you know.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
I really
I
enjoyed.
had to get ready for it. It
Yeah,
couldn't have come earlier. It was the timing. As
yeah,
I look back, and sometimes I say, "I wish I'd had this." I've stopped saying that
yeah.
because
I think.
it did come to me. There was things that came and I kicked them back because of my own filters.
Yeah,
I only hear what I'm willing to hear.
right.
And so that willingness, oh my goodness. And the cursive writing, I have certain pens that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I don't even mess with the other kind. I just have mine in stock. And I mean, I'm writing and writing and writing.
yeah,
And of course,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I got mine little book here. My little,
yes.
you should go back. So I got, and I'll go back and read it and go, okay, I don't do full notes. So I have to my notes sometimes. Hopefully I have the gift of interpretation. But so I take a few, I try to minimize. I like to listen more. And then if something really strikes me, I'll write that down because that was meaningful to me. And then I do what he says. I go back and explore why that was meaningful to me. But I don't take full notes.
I think you just need the part that sticks out to you.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
that the note taking I used to do in school was, just the points, and then I would build from
yeah,
there.
yeah. So that on Saturdays when we have that, that everybody's taken certain parts of it that are useful to them, and I think that's probably the way that he had designed it. Even though there's a theme for what we're doing, even with codependency and stuff like that. Whoever knew that codependency was as intricate and so involved as it is? It's like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
Oh my
And there's
God.
people that think I'm not angry. They don't know that anger isn't always just right in your face. That
Right,
this subtle pushing down, just a constant hum
right,
running in the background, that's you suppressing your anger.
right. Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
because I did that for years.
Yeah,
While
yeah.
other people were blowing up, I was just as angry, but I was
Sure.
expressing it differently.
Yeah, and that's I'm not sure which is worse.
I
Probably
know.
I don't I don't know because the I don't know because you're really when you hold it in, you hurt yourself big time,
Yes.
and it comes out differently. But the people that explode, they kind of hurt other people so hard,
Yeah.
so tragically at times. And I really believe that most of this crimes and stuff like that, and we call them crimes of passion. We people don't have a rein on their emotions. Don't have a rein on them. They can't control themselves,
Right.
so they hurt others. But you got to learn to control yourself and learn to be humane and but I don't see
I
how
mean, if
people can do it.
even in that, to control yourself, you have to have love
Yeah,
and you have to feel valuable. Uh,
yeah, you really do.
Otherwise, that control issue is just all about power.
Yeah,
Am I got
yeah,
more power than you? And can I
yeah, that's right.
manipulate you to do what I want you to do? And things
Yeah,
like that. That's what I'm
and
trying to do.
the interesting thing about sort of being in control and having power is that's what God wants us to have that. It's really
Yeah.
it's bred into us from the beginning, and but we just of course we misuse it. We misuse
Yes.
that, and
Yes, we do.
I'm you know and you can see it when it happens when other people do it.
Hmm.
It's kind of interesting to watch if you're with a group of people who takes control of the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
He knows.
and even in the church, so or who doesn't take control.
Yeah.
So I'd be the one to take control, or sometimes to wait and see who else does, And if there's just a brief moment, then I'll kind of, you know, position myself to kind of be in charge,
Yeah.
you know. But so it's kind of really it's paradoxical, you know. And I love that he's awakened me to the fact that life is a paradox, you know. It's a yin and a yang. There's a negative pole and there's a positive pole, and somewhere in the middle there is a sweet spot. You know, it's like a bat. You know, there's a sweet spot on a bat in the wood. If you get that sweet spot, the ball will go. It'll carry.
Right.
And you know, that's quite a interesting. There's a whole. I'm sure you could do a lot of teaching on the paradox of life, and how we can find our own sweet spot.
True.
You know.
I mean, on a seesaw too. It's like
Exactly.
if you're weighed down, other people in your life, you're not benefiting them. You just got them stuck up there, and they can't.
That's right, and that's another good analogy of that whole paradox. You know?
I mean, I don't know that I really gave much attention to paradoxes until Jim started bringing those out. And then it just, of course, my willingness to open up was there. And several things had to be in play for me to see the picture.
Yeah, and it is interesting because you have to see the paradox.
It makes me think of those pictures that they have you look at, and you have to cross your eyes and back up from them, and then you see a hidden picture in them.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the paradox he talks about.
You got to kind of get in the right sit. You know, you got to. Okay, all right, yeah.
But once you see it, you don't unsee it.
Yeah, and then you see it, and you go, oh.
Yeah.
It's great.
What's your final thought you'd like to leave everybody with?
Final thought. That's a tough one, isn't it? Because okay, you know, it's like go forth and sin no more. No, yeah. I guess I just say, enjoy the journey. If you find a little wrinkle in your heart, that's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Iron it out, and just dig in and know God loves you, and don't ever give up on that regardless. Give yourself a bit of latitude. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Just kind of recognize what you need to change, and God's
be
all
willing
for
to
it.
do it.
Be
Yeah.
willing, and you'll get to where you want to go. And it's all out. It's all in here. God give it to us. It's there. It's like searching for buried treasure. You know, we got the treasure map. We just need to find the treasure and enjoy it. And it's a fun thing if you just kind of get my attitude a little adjusted around the idea that this is good, this is fun, this is adventurous. It's not hard. His burden is easy. His yoke is easy. His burden is light. You know, I believe that. I don't think it's supposed to be arduous and hard and no, don't go there. So that's what I would say.
Well, Paul, I'm so glad that you took this time to take this interview with me, and I'm just so glad to be in Ultimate Impact with you, and I hope we'll get to hear more from you and maybe your wife, Kathy, at some time.
She went to work today, but you know, she's kind of, I don't know. I'd love for you to hear from her, because
you talk to her and see if she will, because I think that would be something we'd love to do.
She's a musician. She's an interior decorator. She could make money doing it. She's a crafts person. She got projects going around here all the time. We're never finished. She'd go outside and put bricks down with me. She's so accomplished, but she has a little bit of college, high school education, a little bit of college. But let me tell you, she's an accomplished woman. It's amazing to me. I got all the degrees, but she's smarter than me. It's crazy. But marthann, you know, it's fun, and it'd be nice to, actually have a cup of coffee or something, and actually sit down together and get my wife and stuff like that. But I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed you being with me and helping me through this, and seeing you in Ultimate Impact too. I thought when I saw you at the gym, I thought, you're very composed. I know that's how you present yourself. It's great.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
don't know
can
what's
fall
going on
apart
down
as
here.
good as anybody else, I think.
Huh?
I can fall apart as good as anybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you. So anyway, it was fun, and
Yeah. Thank you
yeah,
very much, Paul.
and thank Abby for reaching out to me.